Delighted to say we're joined now by Aidan O Mahony, who of course is a Laochra Gael coming up on TG Cahir later this week, so we're looking forward to that. Aidan, how are things with you?
Good, Shane. I'm just finished nights now and I'm pulling myself out of the bed, so...
how many nights in a row did you have to do there with the guards?
So I won't get too much busy now. I'm community policing in Tralee, so my nights usually finish at 4 o'clock. So we work 2 earlies and 2 nights, 12-hour shifts. But it's good. It's actually good because you get a lot of time off. So you 4 days on, 4 days off. So it works. It's a good system, all right.
Yeah, and some of that spare time will be put towards the Austin Stacks hurlers this coming season.
Crokes, Dr Crokes.
Crokes, sorry.
They won't be too happy to do that now, Shane. Look, it's I suppose it's something new for me. I'd say a lot of heads were turned when they heard I was getting involved in hurling, but I'm actually enjoying it. I suppose the one thing when you kind of change codes and go into management is you need to start investing time in everything from, I suppose, management number one, but look, learning the game for me number two, and it is brilliant. I see the skill that's involved along with the lads, and there's a great group there. I suppose for us it's about putting the work in now for the next couple of months, and it's all about championship. So as I said, it's a new role for me, but it's one I'm thoroughly enjoying at the moment.
Yeah, Richard Hogan asked, how did you get involved with them? And I saw Stephen Poacher is involved with the Fermanagh hurlers, and he was telling me he's really enjoying it as well. So, how did it end up happening?
Yeah, so I was doing the S&C with him last year. I spent a year with him, and look, I work with there's 4 or 5 guards on the team. I got to know the lads well, and they approached me, I suppose, when the championship finished this year, to see will I get involved again next year. And obviously I thought that they would look at the S&C, but I suppose for me it was a no-brainer really. I'm living in Killarney. Look, I'm finished playing at the club now. I wasn't going to be travelling out the road to Rathmore again this year. Now I'd love to, and hopefully my wife won't be watching the show, but I'd love to be travelling back out to Rathmore for another year, but the priorities have changed a lot. So look, it's near home. It's not very time consuming, and look, for me, as I said, it's something different, so I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Did you play hurling, Aidan, at all growing up even, or is this kind of just a new departure in recent years?
I can remember last year I walked into Crokes clubhouse with the hurley in my hands, and I got some strange looks. I'd say they thought more like a weapon than a hurley, but no, I can remember actually Patrick, he was coming to our school. It's amazing really when you look back, and he used to do the football and the hurling skills. That was years and years ago to our primary school. Something I never kind of catched on to. I wish I did. I even poke around the ball with the lads there now. It's an amazing sport, but it's definitely too late for me now. I think I do more damage to myself than I wouldn't on the pitch. So yeah, there's no take up the hurling, I'm afraid.
Anyone that saw you on the football pitch definitely would probably say that the last thing you needed was another weapon in their hands.
Yeah, and it is like I'm laughing now. It's just all, I suppose, the basics and what go with it, like the size of the hurling and stuff. I'm watching lads come in there at night and they're 6'4", 6'5", and they've like this thing like a wooden spoon inside their hand. Like it's so small with them now, and it's just learning all that stuff. But as I said, so far it's been brilliant. It's been unbelievable learning it. And I think even from coaching football and managing, you learn so much from both sides. It's, for me, I suppose every day is kind of a school day with it then.
And how much of a crossover do you think there is tactically between the two codes? I mean, obviously it's the same size pitch, the same goals, same scoring system. There's no offside rule. So how much crossover is there?
There's a huge crossover. Look, I'd be very close to Donny Buckley, a man that he trained hurling teams before. Evan Talty from Clare is involved with me in the background with the Crokes hurlers, and he's been brilliant just with the games and stuff. And it's very like it's no different to the games we watched yesterday. Like you're trying to defensively set up that you're not conceding or shipping big scores. I remember even with the Sigerson team last year when we were with MTU Kerry, our biggest thing we went in day one was that we'd set up defensively that we wouldn't ship goals. I think we shipped 1 in 6 games. And with the hurling as well, I just think it's the movement you see in the football. And I watched a lot of the Limerick games, and I suppose their analysis and their games are being coached to death, like where you just see their movement and what they're doing off the ball and their work rate and stuff. And it's trying to implement those small things into a club team, and I suppose trying to get the numbers and get that buy-in as well.
When you see this Kerry jersey, so we're sponsored by OurGame, what do you think of when you see this Kerry jersey, or what player do you think?
Started smiling when your screen popped back on there now, Shane. Yeah, I think for some reason I see that jersey. It's like Liam Flaherty comes into my head or something, or he's the one man. He was number 6 for Kerry when I see that jersey. But I love that jersey. I think one of my favourites. I know there's a lot of talk about the new one yesterday. Yeah, 15. Is that Mike Frank? Yeah. So yeah, that's that team or that generation kind of comes into my head when I see that jersey. I think it was like one of the first kind of really tight fit ones. But yeah, it's a class jersey in fairness.
Yeah, at the moment, luckily there's still a little bit of give at the front here, but I don't know for how many more years it will be.
You're very well.
We're going to talk about your Laochra Gael in a little bit, but just first of all, what did you make of Kerry? Obviously, it was a defeat to Donegal. They were 1-6-3 ahead, but for the rest of the game, then Donegal won by 10 points to 6, I think. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, I suppose it's early days. The one great thing about Kerry down here is we don't give you an inch too easy, even for the league. I suppose for Jack, he'd be disappointed in that it's a long trip up to Donegal. I've been there myself where, if you come away with a point or any sort of a result out of it, it shortens the journey. Look, they're down a lot of bodies. I still think yesterday, look, they shipped no goal again. It says about what way they're setting up. And I think for Jack's thing, he said it himself, it's just about staying up in the league. Getting game time, and I think that's probably the biggest thing he'll want is he wants players to put their hand up. I think our own clubman Paul Murphy again yesterday, he's been having a massive season and he's brought that form into the league and yesterday kicked 2 great points. So I think Jack won't be too worried. The home game, Monaghan's always a tough game for Kerry. Every time we played them down through the years, they always put it up to us. So he'd be, I suppose, pinpointing that game because you need to get a result as well on the road again after that. So I just think where they'll be disappointed yesterday, they've plenty to work on. But look, they're only back a few weeks. They had their team holiday. And I know for myself, the team holiday always takes a lot out of every team. So I don't think he'll be too at the moment. But at the same time, he'll be looking for players to put their hand up because you're talking about panels and stuff. And you 40 lads or 45 lads inside training, they need to be showing some of the form.
Michael?
Aidan, would it have been case there's a question in there, just how does Aidan feel about Paul Murphy getting no break and going back in with Kerry? The Glen lads obviously went back, I think there was 3 of them in the other day with Derry and 2 of them played. I think Ethan Doherty and Conor Glass both played. Were you chatting to Paul? Would it be a point of view where he's just mad to try and stake a claim and that he doesn't feel like he can take time out, or what's the kind of scenario there, or is it because they're down bodies maybe?
Yeah, I think Jack had his answer from before. He could even, I'd say, give his all. He said he was on his honeymoon for a month, so he had a month's break. So I knew then straight away that Paul was going to go straight back in. No, I think he'd be very happy going straight back in because, last year he was coming out as an impact sub, and in fairness to him, every time he did come on, he did make an impact. And I think his form has gone up from the county championship to the club championship with us. And I think like every player, this time of the year, you're selfish. You want to be on the team. You want to get that jersey. And look, it's Jack's form that if you come in day one and you put your hand up, you keep the jersey. So I think Paul is happy enough to be inside there playing well and have his hand on that one of those jerseys at the moment. And I think going forward, if he keeps the form he's in, I could definitely see him starting this year. And look, he's a huge player. He's never let his club down either. And that competition when lads come back is fierce. So I think the break, the 4 weeks he had in his honeymoon probably did him good, and he's fresh now, but as I said, he's playing unbelievable football.
Just what you mentioned, Ed, it's a completely different scenario for Kerry in the league this year, realistically. Is it all about just unearthing more players, getting more game time for lads, and hopefully being able to go deeper into the squad come championship? I don't think the idea of getting silver or anything, it's really more about survival this year and finding out more about your squad and then easing, we'll say, the Cliffords and a few lads back into it towards the end of the league.
Yeah, and I think that's what Jack wants. I think Jack would love if some of the forwards would say put their hand up now yesterday, and it was like Clifford's looking in and stuff, saying, "Geez, they're playing well," and eager to come back, because I think that's the one thing you always want with the team. You want players to want to come back into it. Look, the forwards, I think this year will have been much of a change. You still have Shawnee, you still have Paddy, you still have David, Paul Gainey, Stephen O'Brien. All these guys have to come back in as well, but I think around the middle, look, David Moran is going to be a huge loss, just what he brings in terms of leadership and his all-round game. I was actually surprised. I thought he'd stay on for another year. But look, that's David, he goes out at the top, and he's a huge loss from him. So midfield is another one where Jack will be hoping that someone will come along. I know our own Mark Ryan went in, I'd say the week after championship as well, and he's another big option for him. But look, the league is about it's about blooding new players, but at the same time, you need to stay up in Division 1. He'll be conscious of that and hoping that he'll find 2 or 3 new players that he can bring. I know Mike Breen is back. You know, Pa Warren do well yesterday. So look, it's not all doom and gloom. Obviously, we want to get a result up there, but I still think they'd be happy enough.
So, like, obviously, you've gone out at the top with your club, Rathmore. Brilliant to win an All-Ireland club title there. And I suppose you can retire more easily knowing that you've gone out with that. What was the feeling like in the dressing room afterwards when you were around there with all the players and you were just kind of drinking it in?
It was, I was actually more nervous for this All-Ireland, I'd say, than I was in even my own, because I think it's with the club, and I know everyone says you just want them to experience that whole euphoria of winning. Like I can remember, we all came in at half time, and the dressing room was I won't say it was flat, but I wouldn't be one for speaking, especially I suppose when you're not constantly getting game time and you're conscious as well as look, you're one of the old lads inside the dressing room that sometimes it's better off from Paul or Shane to talk. But I just found that day I had to talk. I can just saying to the lads, I said, look, whatever I think about losing, I said going down the road to community and not getting over the line would kill our club and our community, because when you get to finals, it's about winning. And then just seeing it after, experiencing the lads and the kids and just the families, you know, all around. And even that night and the following day, we went to the Boar's Head to Hugh, and just like tradition, I was talking to you on the Sunday night, and I was saying, you know, for years we'd be there on the Monday, look at the clubs above, and they're above inside the Boar's Head, and the tradition of winning the All-Irons. And here we are now heading down the Lewis, and just a trip home, getting absolutely pelted with snowballs and stuff like that. It was as good a welcome as you'll ever get, and those 2 nights were very special. But it was huge for the club, because even as you were saying, like after you're seeing a panel of 42 players, and just looking around inside in Crow Park and having that experience of doing the warm up under the stand and running out and in the Fossa team were, you know, they lined both sides. It was a massive gesture from them, and we met them on the Wednesday night then in Clarny in the Shire, and like you'll have that connection with that club forevermore, you know, between Rathmore and Fossa. So it just worked out perfectly. You know, it was just one of those days that we got over the line, and it's brilliant for the club. But like that now, County League will be starting, or the Super League as they call it down here, will be starting. There's another one of those leagues. We'll be starting in 2 weeks, and to be back to normality again then from.
Can you paint the picture of being on that, I suppose, trailer, and then the snowballs start coming in at you? Like, how did it even happen, do you know?
So we got up in the back of the lorry, and all I heard first was somebody got a rice belter into the side of the jaw of one. And then it started laughing. There was 1 or 2 coming, but it was friends of the lads that were on the left hand side of us there. Like, but it was funny, and to record it was even better. But it was all in good spirit, in fairness.
Yeah, it was, to be fair. Tell us about your Laochra Gael and filming that. What was the experience like, and was there any part that was particularly challenging from your point of view?
It was lovely to be asked. You know, when you get asked first, I'm always one of these people that say, why did I say I do that? And then I do it, and I'm kind of saying, you know, it's not so bad. But there was a lot of work into it, as in, for me, I suppose, you have to relive everything again. It's no different to writing the book that time. There's obviously moments in your career that you go back over again and you relive them, and they're tough. And but then there's parts as well, like where you're growing up in school and the farming and all these things. And you know, we did a day of recording back in Annie's in Gilfest where our farm is, and actually coincidentally my brother was there the same day. They were dosing the sheep. Now I went in, I haven't seen sheep now in a long time, so I was there with a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. You'd be saying he's the last fella now to be inside dosing sheep. But yeah, it was just special. Like, and you know, even the last couple of days there now, I suppose all the farmers around that area are ringing my brother saying, when is the documentary on there, and will they be showing the flesh? So just things like that, Shane, are kind of special. And then look, obviously the 2010 thing is a tough, because you're reliving it and those moments that led up to it as well. Like, and but it's good. Like, I suppose for me, you know, I'll always say, like, you write a book, and I don't know, do a lot of people read books, but when it's on a documentary and you're doing Laochra Gael, it's there for people to see, and they probably get to see a different side of the football.
Yeah, Michael?
You probably had to lay yourself bare somewhat, Aidan, do you? Like, you kind of, it's an open book, like, and everything is on the table there, and you have to just be maybe outrageously honest about things maybe that you haven't talked about in a long time.
Yeah, and I think that's what the show does as well. Like, I know when they came down day one, like as you say, when you write a book, they know everything about you, so you can't be kind of saying, "Will you vote X, Y, and Z?" But you do. You become very open, and it is emotional. I think they have a good studio down there, just fine and dark as well. So it's you do you just lay it out bare. For me, that I think it's important as well. Like I always say that. Like for years there, I used to be starting with community police, and you begin to schools, and you be talking about, you be talking to young people, and they're looking down at you saying, "Asher, it's easy for him. He's won so many Mount of All Ireland medals." And I found back then like that, I was never kind of opening up about the real person. Where now I can, I've had plenty of challenges in my life, and they're all laid out there in Laochra Gael, and I think it's just for people to see, because sometimes when you play a sport at a high level or elite level, you're just seen as a sports player and not the person. And I've seen that side. I've seen the side where I thought that everything about me was GAA, and that, it gave me that profile, which it did. And then walking away from it, it was like the end of the world, and how would I come back from it? But all those steps kind of, I suppose, made me the person I am today, and made me why I'm involved with Dr Crokes and this thing. Like, I love the hurling or the football or the coaching and management side of it. And you can actually relate, I think, better. And it's not because I've gone through that, but I think you can relate better to people as well. And especially in coaching terms, where you're not going with the stick approach, but you can kind of see people for what they are at face value, and know that there's bigger things outside of sport and outside of life as well.
Kieran Donaghy I just listened to some of the clips. He just said that during your tough times, he said he wasn't maybe the best teammate because he was thinking about winning maybe more than anything else. Do you think that's something that's probably changed even within the GA now, where we're a lot more open to what's going on in someone's life outside of the white lines, and how important it is? And a lot of the great managers will make sure that lads are thriving off the pitch to make sure they thrive on it. But Kieran kind of made a comment that he reckoned he wasn't a great teammate, and I'm sure that's not true. But do you think that's changed in the last decade or so?
Yeah, that's Kieran. Kieran's as honest as days long. Look, Kieran and myself be very close. No, like, I think back then it was just different. It was all about the game. It was all about football. For me, I suppose I was very good at keeping it in as well, so they wouldn't know that much about it. And I wouldn't expect, I know Kieran said that, but I wouldn't look that way at all. I think nowadays sports psychology has brought it to a different level, where, like, I know now that they do things with teams where they put groups in threes and fours, and they get to know each other, and they talk about their hardship and their heroes and all these things, and players become more open. And it's a difficult scenario, because some players have tougher things than others, and they're hard to share. But when you share them, then you actually get to know the player. And I think teams do an awful lot of it now, where take away the pitch side, the whole psychology side of it is huge. It's massive, because when players go through, we'll say, certain obstacles or challenges, you need someone to be able to unearth, or to actually be able to tease it out with you. Where I think back in our time, look, for me, it was my own fault, because I found that the player I was, and the player that played in the edge, that I needed to be seen like that, and if I dropped my barrier, then it would be seen by me as a weakness, not by someone else, but by me. And that was my mindset back then. Where now I'd be more open and honest, kind of a person, probably maybe too much, but look, it kind of goes full circle, as they say.
And look, obviously a lot of the hard time is down to, you were later cleared, but at the time failed the test for salbutamol. And being a guard as well out on the street, you probably would have had smart comments off people, because you would have been very recognisable.
Well, there was plenty of smart comments between the between the inhaler and, I suppose, the diving. The diving thing probably started off where, when I found the asthma or the inhaler case came along, then I said sympathy was definitely in short supply. And I just think the way it was just snowballed, it was kind of guilty before proven innocent at all. And it just took a leaf of its own. As in, I remember going up to the All Blacks a Munster game, and as they said, being above in Limerick, and then next it comes on the news, like a GA player fails drug test, and everyone's looking at you, and you want the ground to swallow you up. And it's very hard then to explain to someone about being asthmatic, and explain the whole process and how it happened and this and that. And Yeah, but look, it weren't even that, Shane. Like, I even found the years coming up to that, my head wasn't in a great space, and like, even walking away from sport, then I wasn't enjoying it. You know, in 2009, I wasn't starting. I wasn't enjoying my football. I think it was more outside of the game than the game itself, and all these things happened, and I wasn't dealing with them. And you know, I just, for when you've someone that's in that kind of mindset, then that can be one thing. Like, I remember going out and socialising after games and didn't enjoy it, but like, more or less did it to kind of, I suppose, put more hardship on myself. And as I said, the 4 or 5 days leading up to Ashari and going in there were probably the blackest days of my life, where, you know, nothing in life kind of interested me, or I found nothing good in life. And for at a stage then where you're saying you football that gave you a profile, that you cut that loose and that's gone, and you're kind of looking around and saying everything else, it's just, you, like, as I said, I could have gone down just a dark path and just given up on everything. But as I said, I have a supportive family, and you know, they invested a lot of time in me, and like, those weeks inside Nashari were the best of my life, because it weren't even the J thing. It was like something that was kind of suffering in silence, and, you know, not dealing with things, and then being able to go in and start opening up and coming out in, like, it was like a breath of fresh air. And it was kind of funny because Ratmore were actually came out on the Friday, and Ratmore were playing Championship on the Sunday. I'd say there was a bigger crowd. Then they were there for, I'd say, seeing what was going to come out more than what was actually going to play football. But I trained for the 2 months up there as well. So yeah, it was an interesting time. It's a time I always look back on. And yeah, look, we all have our, I suppose, crosses and paths we carry in life, and that was my one.
So in terms of the challenges that you were facing at the time, psychologically, I suppose, like, were you at a stage where, you know, when you're talking about nothing interesting you, where you were numb to everything, or were you a bit self-destructive, or how would you describe the state that you were in?
I think a bit of both, Shane. Yeah, I think like, self-destructive is like, I had no interest in anything, and as I said, like, you'll go out and you're in the middle of the league and you're socialising, and, you know, you're finding no enjoyment. I found, like, when I was going out, I was nearly crying every night, just your emotions coming up, and then the other side of it was just like giving up in football. As I said, I was going to work, and I'd say people could see it. I was just in a dark spot, and I just don't know where it would have gone. Genuinely, I just needed help, and for me, I was one of those people that, as I said, because I suppose I played like that in a team, and you're a GA player, you couldn't be seen, I suppose, dropping your guard or having that weakness where I have to come back out. So my weakness was myself, and everything else that was around it. And look, it just changed a lot of things.
And could you tell us a bit more about Ash Irie and just the tipping point for you to go there?
Yeah, the tipping point was like, look, I needed a lot of counselling. I needed, like, to kind of unearth what was going on in my life. And when I went in there, then look, a lot of therapy. Look, it's therapeutic. Every day, there's no mobile phones, there's no contact with the outside world, which is great. It kind of opens up your eyes to life. And for me, I think the biggest thing was that every time I go to bed at night time at 10 o'clock, I'd actually sleep. And I know it's a kind of a silly thing to say, but your mind would just switch off straight away, and you'd sleep for the whole night without waking or thinking about anything, you know, because I suppose as people, we're always constantly thinking we're going to bed and looking at phones and stuff like that. But for me back then, it was amazing just to be able to go to bed and just switch off. And, you know, like, that's what I found the 6-7 weeks. It was just therapeutic. You talk about everything in your life, from growing up to everything you've dealt with. And then there's a kind of a ceremony in the last day where you burn everything and you go out the gate and you look forward to, I suppose, to new beginnings. And that was a lot of it. And as I said, that time I just needed that step away just to find myself again.
Aidan, going back into normal life, is that difficult when, you know, your phones and people and everything are back in your face kind of again? What was that like? What was the adapting to that like?
I don't know. I'd say when I came out, they'd be half afraid of you. I'd say what was coming back out. So really, no, I think you can deal with things a lot better. Like, when you do come out, you're a lot more open to people, and I suppose it's more awkward for them then because they're kind of dancing around the subject of it. So it's kind of interesting that side. But look, as I said, it was part of my life, and it was part of my life, and it probably made me a person and helped me an awful lot. And you know, I think, as I said, when you go into management and coaching and stuff like that, I think players are more open to you because they've seen what you've been through as well.
And are there any lessons or habits that you picked up in Asha Irida to carry to this day? Like you talk about, we all have this dependence on the phone, for example, and switching that off.
Yeah, like it's a one big keep it in the day. Like I'm a big thing about that. About sometimes we're always looking down the line. Like I'm always saying to people, and they're doing the SSC and stuff there about goals and stuff. I'm always saying like day by day is it's the easiest kind of way of doing things. There's no point putting off or trying to sort out things that are down the line. Just keep it in the day, and I try to do that as much as I can now. But like there's a lot of things I suppose you can look back on and reflect on that you take away from it, and but at the same time you're not like you can't come out and think you can fix everyone else. It doesn't work like that. You have to be, I suppose, it has to be about you. And you can only control yourself, where you can't be going around and saying, right, I'll fix Shane or this and that. It doesn't work that way.
I'm just thinking then towards the latter end of your career, it must have been very rewarding, that day in 2014 when you were sent out to man-mark Michael Murphy. And I remember the day I had to do a piece for the Star, and it was to see how would the two number 14s go, Donaghy and Murphy. And I'd say you got on the ball an awful lot more than Murphy, even though you were man marking him. So from a personal point of view, that must have been very satisfying.
Yeah, and there was, and like when I wrote the book that time, I spoke when my dad passed away in 2012, and I made a promise to him that I would get back up the steps of the Hogan before I retired. And obviously I knew 2014 was going to be one of those years where I wasn't going to get too many more options or opportunities. And that final, look, I suppose as a man marker and as a defender, all my career, I love that job of man marking. And when you get to big days in as well, like I was 34 years of age, but the body was in great shape. I'd missed training all year. I felt good, and just get out in that final out with Mighty Murphy. I'm always saying he's not one of those guys you can mark. You can do your best on him. He probably coming out the pitch for some of the time suited me as well. I got on more ball. I'm always saying that to lads. I said your first job always as a defender is man mark your man. And I said when games open up, then you'll actually surprisingly get on more ball. But for me that day, look, it was the overall team. I think we'd been written off all year. The whole 2 games against Mayo below in Limerick, which they were special moments. People coming on the pitch and whatnot, and just those games were unreal. The All-Ireland final was gas because, like, the last phone call I had to my dad was coming down from the Mayo Donegal 2012 final, and he was speaking about Michael Murphy on the train, Aidan O'Shea, and lo and behold, I marked Aidan O'Shea in the semi-final in the first game, and then I went down to mark Michael Murphy in the final in the second game. So, I'm always, I suppose, the big thing, Kerry, we believe in Peugeots and stuff like that. Like, so it just happened to work out that way. And look, we got over the line. The bus to the post saved us in the finish from probably a replay. So, but we'll take it. You need a bit of luck in games.
Is there any, like, if you were to think of all the characters that you shared the dressing room with in Kerry, in the county team specifically, who would you say is the most crack?
Who would I say is the most correct? Jesus Christ, there was some characters in our groups, like the Shays were they just mischief about them, between ringing people, and I said Darragh O'Shea's one ringing Darren Sullivan there, pretending I don't know, was the media or something, but the three of them together were they were notorious, and nobody was safe for them. But yeah, we'd like Seamus Moynihan, I suppose if you were out and stuff, brilliant character. All these guys, Donaghy is well able, Barry John, Galvin, they were all great characters. And I always loved that about them, in that where when you went on the pitch, when you trained and when you played in games, it was like you'd flick a switch and that seriousness came out in them, because no different to yourself now, Shane, with that Kerry jersey in your back there. When you put that cloth on you, it just it changes your personality when you go across that white line. But when we were training and stuff, they always had the crack and stuff, and we knew when you could have the crack, and then you knew when it got serious. But those lads, they were great for me, because when you come in as a young lad and you're inside in the dressing room, you're looking at the Shays and Seamus Moynihan and all these guys, and then you're seeing the other side to them. It's brilliant for every player, because it makes you part of that group. Then, but to answer the question, the Shays will be up there with the boldest of them.
And would there be any particular stories from, I don't know, maybe a team holiday or anything like that would stick out for you as being particularly fun?
No, I just like the holidays. I stopped going to holidays in the last couple of years. I always found that, the off season was important for me when I was getting older, so I left the holidays off. But like in terms, it was just the stuff they were at training and things like that, and the WhatsApp groups, and like I suppose when we started out first, there wasn't really a WhatsApp group, but I can see where they get it from. Like when I went in first, like Paddy was my first manager and John O'Keefe was training us at the time, and I'm like the lads would tell you about the train that time, like it was mentally to test players. And I went in the first night, and obviously you're eager and you want to impress. And Eddie the Tatler rang me and said, like, you need to be out the front of the runs now tonight. And I was going, and I was playing with CIT, and I said, right, I'm going to show these lads now. Very naive, obviously. And we did first 8 runs in the small pitch and up the hill, down. And I was fine halfway through. Then we had 8 more. I was falling back into the middle of the pack. And then the third 8, I was hanging on for dear life, and I came off the hill at one stage, and Paddy was standing there, and I was rubbing the back of my leg. Now I was 23 years of age. I didn't know my hamstring from my quad, and I came off. He said, "You all right?" I said, "I'm after pulling my hamstring." I didn't clue shame what my hamstring was, and he said, "Right, go on into the dressing room." That was Tuesday night. Then Thursday night, I came back in, bag on my shoulder, ready for action again, and Paddy waited outside the door. See, obviously didn't register with me, and he was there like, "How's the hamstring?" I said, "Good." Like, you don't pull the hamstring in 6 weeks. But yeah, he said, I'd say it weren't your hamstring. He said, I'd say you blew the head gasket. And just pouring laughing into my face, and I just started laughing. And I always think of him since, because the lads have the same wit about him, because only he'd get away with it just the way he said it to me. He was right serious, and just roaring laughing. I'd say you blew the head gasket. And he was right. I more than blew the head gasket. I'd say everything. My mind was blown, I'd say, from the running, but those times they actually was like set you up in life for that training and stuff, mentally and everything was, oh my God, yeah.
No doubt. We won't keep you too much longer, but just a final question, Aidan. In terms of the Laochra Gael coming this week, are you nervous about the reception on it, or are you just like, I presume you've seen it and you're like, what will be, will be?
I was talking to Noel O'Leary during the week. I myself, Noel would be very close. He's a guy I really admire. We've kept in contact since our playing days, and we've had challenge games together. And I was saying to him, I'd say I'd be hiding behind the couch with one eye open. He was laughing. He was saying, I'd say I'd be the same. You are, like, you're definitely nervous. I was saying, definitely got the short straw because they put Joe Canning first, and how would you follow? I'm not going to be kicking from the sideline or. So I was kind of putting 2 and 2 together, saying, Jesus, why did they put me after this fella now of all people? But yeah, look, you'll be looking forward to it and nervous at the same time, and look, you just hope it comes across well. Because I suppose for anyone, it's a lovely thing to get asked for. I remember I was talking to Kieran Donny about that time when they rang me first, and it's a great show. I watched them myself. I just think they're very good in getting, I suppose, into the analysis of a person instead of the player, and I think it's a great show to watch as well. And look, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, my kids are in it as well, like, so it's something nice to have down the line.
Brilliant stuff. Well, look, Aidan, really appreciate you coming on the show, and best of luck. Hope it goes down really well.
Cheers, thanks lads, thanks for having me on.
Cheers, Aidan.